Have you ever felt like you are playing a game where the rules change every single day? One day, you are the golden child, bathed in praise. The next day, you are the scapegoat, burdened with sins you did not commit. You walk through your adult life with a vague, heavy sensation in your chest, a feeling that you are constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. You apologize when you haven't done anything wrong. You over-explain yourself to strangers. And when someone offers you genuine kindness, your first instinct isn't gratitude, it is suspicion. You wonder, what do they want from me? When will the other shoe drop? If this resonates with you, you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are a survivor of a sophisticated system of psychological conditioning. You see, we often think of toxic parenting in terms of obvious abuse, the shouting, the hitting, the neglect. But the most dangerous form of control is invisible. It creates a prison not made of bars, but of neural pathways in your own brain. It is a silent programming that rewires your reality, distorts your memory, and hijacks your nervous system. Today, at the Behavioral Psychology Lab, we are going to perform a forensic analysis of your past. We are not just listing mean things parents say. We are going to decode the dark psychology behind those phrases. We will expose the biological mechanisms of trauma bonding, the paralyzing logic of the double bind, and the neuroscience of gaslighting. And most importantly, we will open the ancient toolbox of stoicism to give you the precise cognitive weapons you need to cut these invisible strings once and for all. I am going to make a prediction. By the end of this video, you will feel a shift. A weight you didn't even know you were carrying will begin to lift. Because the antidote to manipulation is not just willpower, it is insight. It is understanding exactly how the trick was performed. Let us begin with the first and most insidious mechanism, the biological trap that keeps you coming back for more. Why do we stay connected to people who hurt us? Why do millions of adults continue to seek validation from parents who have proven, for decades, that they are incapable of giving it? The answer lies in a laboratory experiment from the 1950s, conducted by B.F. Skinner. He placed rats in a box with a lever. In the first group, when the rat pressed the lever, it received food every single time. The rats pressed the lever only when they were hungry. They were calm. They were satisfied. In the second group, the rats pressed the lever and never received food. They quickly learned the lever was useless. They ignored it. They moved on. But in the third group, Skinner introduced a twist. When the rat pressed the lever, the result was random. Sometimes they got a pellet of food. Sometimes they got nothing. Sometimes they got a small electric shock. What happened to these rats? Did they stop? No. They became obsessed. They pressed the lever compulsively, thousands of times, until they collapsed from exhaustion. The uncertainty spiked their dopamine levels higher than a guaranteed reward ever could. This is called intermittent reinforcement. And it is the exact psychological mechanism that keeps a child bonded to a toxic parent. A narcissistic parent is a biological slot machine. If they were cruel 100% of the time, you would have left long ago. You would have walked away. But they weren't always cruel. Remember the moments of warmth? The rare compliment when you achieved something they could brag about. The one birthday where they actually acted like a loving parent. Those moments were not accidents. In dark psychology, this is called breadcrumbing. They give you just enough affection to keep you hoping, just enough validation to keep you pressing the lever. This creates a trauma bond. Your brain creates a loop. It waits for the high of their approval to counteract the low of their abuse. You are not a bad child trying to be good. You are a biological organism trapped in a dopamine loop. Recognizing this is the first step to freedom. You must stop looking for the pattern. There is no pattern. The randomness is the trap. Now that we understand the addiction, let us analyze the specific linguistic tools used to maintain it. Through our research into thousands of case studies, we have identified 3 primary categories of manipulation. These are not just words, they are codes that reprogram your self-perception. The first category is the double bind, or the paradox of obedience. This concept was famously defined by anthropologist Gregory Bateson. A double bind is a communication dilemma where a person receives two or more conflicting messages, and one negates the other. No matter what you do, you are wrong. Let us look at a classic example. The parent says, "Why don't you ever tell me anything? You are so secretive. We should be best friends." This is the command, "Open up to me." It appeals to your desire for connection. So, you let your guard down, you open up, you share a fear, a mistake, or a dream. The parent immediately weaponizes it. They say, "I can't believe you did that. You are so shameful. Why do you always burden me with your problems? You are so dramatic." This is the punishment for obeying the command. Think about the impossible position this puts you in. If you stay silent, you are labeled secretive and ungrateful. If you speak, you are labeled dramatic and burdensome. You cannot speak. You cannot stay silent. And here is the cruelest part. You cannot comment on the contradiction. You cannot say, "Mother, you just asked me to speak, and now you are punishing me for it." That would be seen as disrespectful. So, what happens to the child's mind? It freezes. This induces a state of high anxiety and psychological paralysis. In adulthood, this manifests as chronic indecision. You might find yourself freezing when asked to make simple choices, like what to eat for dinner or which email to send. You are terrified of making the wrong choice, because in your neural pathways, every choice leads to punishment. You have been trained to believe that safety does not exist. The second category of manipulation is the invalidating mirror, commonly known as gaslighting. But we need to go deeper than the buzzword. We need to understand the neuroscience of it. Imagine you are holding a red apple. You see it is red. Your eyes send a signal to your visual cortex, which confirms it is red. But then, your parent, the person you rely on for survival, the person who defined reality for you since birth, looks at you with a mix of pity and amusement and says, "Oh honey, you always were so dramatic. That apple is blue. Everyone knows it is blue. Why do you lie? This is not a difference of opinion. This is an assault on your sensory perception." Common phrases include, "You are too sensitive. I never said that. You have such a vivid imagination. You can't take a joke." When this happens repeatedly, over 18 years, something tragic occurs in the brain. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making and reality testing, begins to weaken. The synaptic connections that allow you to trust your own judgment wither away. You enter a state called learned helplessness. You stop trusting your eyes. You stop trusting your memory. You start to outsource your reality to the narcissist. You become a satellite orbiting their planet, waiting for them to tell you what is real, what is false, what is good, and what is bad. You lose the ability to define your own existence. This is why, even as an adult, you might feel a desperate need for external validation. You are looking for someone to tell you that your red apple is indeed red. The third category is the comparison trap, or triangulation. This is the classic strategy of emperors and dictators. Divide and conquer. Phrases like, "Why can't you be more like your cousin?" or "Your sister never gives me this much trouble," are not innocent comparisons. They are calculated moves to ensure you never form an alliance with your siblings. In a healthy family, relationships are a network. Everyone is connected to everyone. In a toxic family, the relationship is a star, with the parent at the center. All information, all affection, and all approval must pass through them. They create roles: the golden child who can do no wrong, and the scapegoat who can do no right. If you were the scapegoat, you likely felt jealous of the golden child. But let me tell you a secret: the golden child is also a victim. The scapegoat is shamed, yes, but the golden child is consumed. They are not loved for who they are. They are loved for the image they project for the parent. They are a trophy, not a human being. The scapegoat, ironically, often has a better chance of escaping and finding freedom because they were never fully assimilated into the parent's delusion. Now, we must talk about the cost. This is not just about hurt feelings. This is about your biology. The body keeps the score. When a child lives in a state of constant unpredictability, never knowing if they will face the smiling parent or the raging monster, their body stays in a state of hyperarousal. This activates the sympathetic nervous system. Your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. You are ready to fight or flee, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but you cannot flee. You are a child, you have nowhere to go, and you cannot fight. They are too big and too powerful. So you adapt. You enter the freeze response, becoming invisible. Or you enter the fawn response, becoming a chronic people pleaser, trying to anticipate their needs before they even get angry. Over time, this chronic bath of stress hormones changes the physical structure of your brain. First, the hippocampus shrinks. This area is crucial for learning and memory. This is why many survivors have gaps in their childhood memories. Second, the amygdala enlarges. This is the brain's fear center. You become hyper-vigilant. You can read micro-expressions better than an FBI profiler. You can hear a key turning in the front door and instantly know your parent's mood by the sound of their footsteps. This is a superpower born of trauma, but it is exhausting. It leads to anxiety, burnout, and autoimmune disorders. Third, the vagus nerve weakens. This nerve controls your ability to relax and digest. When it is impaired, you live in a permanent state of unease. So, how do we heal? How do we rewire a brain that has been programmed for submission, fear, and doubt? Modern psychology gives us the diagnosis, but ancient philosophy gives us the cure. We turn to Stoicism, the ultimate philosophy of emotional sovereignty. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Here is your tactical Stoic toolkit for breaking the cycle. Tool number 1 is the Grey Rock method, or Stoic apatheia. The narcissist feeds on narcissistic supply. This supply is emotion. They do not care if the emotion is positive, like admiration, or negative, like anger and tears. They just need a reaction to verify their existence and their control over you. When you defend yourself by saying, "I didn't say that," you are giving them supply. When you cry and ask, "Why are you doing this?" you are giving them supply. Even when you yell, you are giving them supply. The Stoic concept of apatheia does not mean apathy in the modern sense. It means freedom from suffering, freedom from being jerked around by passions. You must become a grey rock, boring, unresponsive, monotone. When the parent says, "You are such a disappointment, your cousin is a doctor," the grey rock responds, "That is interesting. Pass the salt, please." When the parent screams, "You never call me, you are ungrateful," the grey rock responds, "I hear that you are upset." You do not justify, argue, defend, or explain. You do none of these. You become a mirror that reflects nothing back. You starve the fire of oxygen. When the slot machine stops paying out, the player eventually walks away. Tool number 2 is the dichotomy of control, or radical acceptance. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught us that some things are up to us, and some things are not. Your parents' behavior, their cruelty, their gaslighting, that is not up to you. You cannot change it. You cannot love them into being healthy. You cannot explain them into being kind. The comment section of our research was filled with thousands of people wishing their parents would apologize. They say, "If only they said sorry, I could heal." This is a trap. You are tying your healing to the actions of the person who broke you. That is slavery. Stoicism demands radical acceptance. Accept that they are who they are. They are like a storm. You do not get angry at a storm for raining. You put on a raincoat. You must stop going to the hardware store asking for bread. They do not have it. Stop going to a toxic parent asking for validation. They do not have it to give. Tool number 3 is cognitive journaling, or external reality testing. Because you were gaslit, your internal reality testing is damaged. You doubt your own memory. You need an external hard drive for your truth. Start writing things down. Document the interactions immediately after they happen. Write down, date November 12th. Mom said I was selfish for not visiting. Then write, date November 14th. Mom said she never wanted me to visit anyway. When you see the contradictions in black and white ink, the spell breaks. You realize you are not crazy. You are dealing with a chaotic, illogical system. This restores your trust in your own perception. Tool number 4 is reparenting the inner child. This is the final and most beautiful step. You must become the parent you never had. Close your eyes for a moment. Visualize the child version of yourself, the one who was called useless, the one who was compared, the one who felt like a burden. Step into that memory. But this time, step in as your adult self. Stand between the parent and the child. Tell that child, you are not a burden. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to make mistakes. You are good enough, simply because you exist. I am here now, and I will protect you. If you recognize these signs today, I want you to know that you have already won a major victory. The narcissist relies on your ignorance. They rely on you, thinking that you are the problem. By watching this, by analyzing the behavior, by learning the science, you have proven that you possess the one thing they lack: self-awareness. The chains that bind you are made of words, memories, and neural pathways. They are strong, yes, but they are not unbreakable. You are not the extension of your parents. You are a sovereign mind. You are the architect of your own reality. If this deep dive helped you understand your past, consider subscribing to the Behavioral Psychology Lab. We are building a community of critical thinkers who refuse to be manipulated. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they are not crazy. And remember, you cannot choose where you came from, but you can choose where you are going. Class dismissed.